So let's start with Parliament, and currently the Q&A session is paused because the Speaker needs to do a little bit of consulting, she says. But let's bring you up to speed. The President taking questions in Parliament today. So first of all, it was meant to start at 2 o'clock. It took more than an hour for the President to actually start giving any replies, and this is due to numerous interruptions, points of order raised by the EFF, and eventually a few of the members actually taken out of the chamber. So then things got going, moving along relatively smoothly. He answered questions on gender-based violence, xenophobia, crime. But then things started to really unravel after the Phala farm robbery question. We're going to get to all of this now with Manqoba Mchunu, who has been watching it, as have all of us. I mean, it's been pretty chaotic at times. Sometimes I actually thought, am I watching an episode of Jerry Springer, or is this Parliament? So talk us through the initial disruption, because it really delayed proceedings for over an hour, didn't it?
Well, certainly, Sally, and that initial disruption was caused by points of order that were raised by the EFF, of course, on two matters. The first matter of contention was the fact that the President was not at Parliament to answer these questions, and that he had been appearing on a virtual platform, and the EFF really quizzing the Speaker on why this was allowed, and even accusing her of shielding President Cyril Ramaphosa from coming and accounting to Parliament, saying that as the party they've been calling for an open Parliament for months now, and the Speaker simply not allowing this to try and shield this particular matter when it comes to the issue of Phala and the President from answering questions related to that. But the second issue was also on that incident Saturday that took place during the budget vote, where members of the EFF, especially women members of the EFF, had complained to the Speaker about sexual harassment claims, saying that when they were evicted from that particular sitting, there were, some male security guards that had mishandled them as far as, some of their body parts. And so there was that complaint. So they wanted a report into that to be debated before the President could answer any of the questions to Parliament. But of course, the Speaker did indicate that this is not the right platform to do that. This was simply a sitting to allow the President to account to Parliament, to give those answers to the nation pertaining to various issues, of course, that were raised by the parliamentarians. And of course, Sally, we did see quite a delay in the start of proceedings, over an hour, and it was an hour of interjection, constant interjections by the EFF, who raised on numerous points of order. But the bigger issue, of course, that the EFF was focusing on is the issue of Phala, which they went straight to the jugular on that particular issue, asking the President to account on why there was money that was found in his property and really what his involvement was in that particular issue. But I want to take you to take a listen to what Floyd had to say, Floyd Shivambu, that is the EFF's Deputy President, had to say in Parliament relating to that issue. And this is before, Sally, we even got to the, the questions on Phala according to the program of Parliament. But take a listen to that interaction between the Speaker and Floyd Shivambu.
We want an explanation of the man in the mattress and pillows of Cyril Ramaphosa today. We want the man which is in the pillows.
The money is not number one. Phala is not number one on the list of questions on the order paper.
Yes, but it's a priority.
We are dealing with question one on the
number
order
one
paper.
in the country.
Yeah, I mean, it really was a chaotic session. And of course, we know that I think it's still on pause at the moment because the big issue around what the President did eventually say about Phala, opposition parties are saying, well, that's not an answer. That might be a response, but it's not an answer. We didn't really glean anything new from the President, or did we?
Certainly not, Sally. In fact, I think we've heard this response from the budget vote, where he did indicate that he will cooperate with authorities as far as investigations are in this matter, and that he really won't say much on it. And of course, that's what he repeated today. That's what he said before Parliament. He said that I know there's a lot of interest in this matter, but I cannot answer on this matter. And this is because there are still investigations that are going on. Of course, we know, Sally, that there's an investigation by the Hawks. We know that the Public Protector has also sent questions which the President has also responded to, but also we do know that there is a Section 89, process that is going on in Parliament, where there will be a panel of experts that are going to be, appointed. In fact, I think MPs have until Thursday to submit their names on that particular process for that panel of experts, which will look into whether or not they are grounds for the president to be impeached when it comes to this particular matter. So he chose the easy option of saying, you know, let's allow those investigations to continue. Let's give the law enforcement officials, you know, time to investigate these issues. And in fact, saying Sally, that he has even been advised not to even, you know, talk about the merits or, you know, this particular issue because, you know, it's still under investigation. So again, we're hearing President Cyril Ramaphosa not wanting to speak much on this particular issue, just simply saying that let's allow those processes to take time and allow due process to take time, and that he'll simply abide and respect those processes. Take a listen to what he had to say when he answered that particular question.
That matter, which relates to one of the questions that will come later, is a matter that is currently under investigation. And the various investigating arms or agencies of our country are in the process of dealing with that matter. And I will say a little bit more about that later when the question properly arises.
And it was an interesting point. I think it was Julius Malema who made the point, or was it Vuyelweta Zungula, who had a lot of very powerful things to say of the ATM party. It was Zungula who actually said, look, these are not answers. This is not an answer. Why wait to tell us the truth? You're now listening to law enforcement that says we must conclude our investigations. But you didn't actually trust law enforcement enough back in 2020 to report this crime.
Indeed, Sally, and you know that many of the political parties are not happy about the president's response. In fact, up until now, when it you know, took that adjournment, the whole discussion was still around whether or not the president had answered the question when it came to Phala, because many of the parliamentarians feel that he has not answered that question, and that is simply just, you know, shielded himself from answering that question. And in fact, Zungula, you know that is from the ATM, which is a party that has actually, you know, initiated the Section 89 process. They are the ones that are calling for an inquiry to look into whether the president could be, you know, impeached as a result of this particular process. But also, they are the ones that pose that question, asking for the president to take the country into its confidence when it comes to this issue and to answer questions about his involvement into this issue. So many of those parliamentarians certainly not happy. The EFF is not happy with the response that they got from the president, and they are saying that, you know, it will really be, you know, an indictment on the constitution of the country if the president is not allowed to answer, or if he does not give the answers to this particular question.
Some very interesting points made by the DA's new chief whip and also Julius Malema. First of all, Seviwe Gwarube saying that these questions would have been submitted at least 16 days before today. If the question was not going to be answered, they should have struck it off the question list. You know, she's saying it was a non-answer. And then Julius Malema, interestingly, accusing the Speaker, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, of protecting the President, which is quite a serious allegation to make, isn't it?
Indeed, Sally. And in fact, I mean, on numerous occasions, the Speaker had to go back to the rules book and read, you know, the fact that parliamentarians, if they're not happy with the answer, she doesn't have the powers to actually decide on how the president is going to respond to a question. And so really the opportunity is open to, you know, political parties to go, you know, and, you know, at a later stage perhaps, you know, raise some of these questions through some of the portfolio committees or some of the sittings that will be sitting in. But the Speaker really saying that, you know, according to what she has heard from the president has indicated that he cannot answer this question due to the fact that there is an investigation into this matter. And in fact, this was one of the things that was highlighted by Julius Malema, who said the president himself has indicated that he cannot answer this, which means that he did not give an answer to it. And you as the Speaker are simply protecting the president from being held accountable.
And I think that's what the adjournment is about now, is whether they move this to another session. And I think we're still waiting to hear the answer. Very briefly, we don't have a lot of time, but I mean, the issue of xenophobia came up, the president saying we're not a xenophobic nation. Talking about Poppy Ramatube, the MEC in Limpopo for Health, he said that she didn't direct her issue in the right place. She shouldn't have said it to the patient, but she's raised important issues.
Indeed, and in fact, he defended Poppy Ramatube in that, you know, in that engagement. He defended the MEC, saying that she did raise quite crucial issues when it came to the issue of migration, of course, which was one of the things that he spoke about in length, about what government's intervention is when it comes to immigration in the country. He says that, of course, there are quite a number of engagements that are happening, within SADC itself, within, the AU as well as other countries where we know that this issue is quite a crucial one. He says that actually also ministerial engagements that are happening between the countries, the different countries or the neighboring countries, but also that point said, he's saying that South Africa is not xenophobic, that country will follow the laws to ensure that, the issue of illegal migration is addressed in the long term.
The other issue, and we haven't given it enough attention at all, gender-based violence came up. And a very specific question was asked of the President about the DNA backlog, which we know means that a lot of rape convictions do not happen because the DNA samples are just not ready. And I thought if any question was not properly answered, for me that was one of them. Yes, he spoke about the National Strategic Plan and that things are slow because of a lack of resources, but I expected more from the President on exactly what they're going to do about that DNA backlog. It wasn't a very comprehensive answer in my view. I would have liked to seen the politicians perhaps take him to task on that. But I know that it's paused at the moment, so I'm going to let you get back to monitor it, and we're going to carry on with our bulletin. But thank you so much for wrapping it all up for us so precisely and concisely, because it was quite a wild afternoon. Thank you very much. That's our reporter, Mangoba Nkunu.